Welcome to the close reading of Super Mario RPG: Legend of the Seven Stars. This game is a hybrid of the adventure genre with the role-playing game genre, which is different than the traditional Mario game. As you can see, the game abandons the traditional platforming elements that all Mario games of the past have done, and instead supplements them with the combat of a role-playing game. Another interesting thing to note is that the game was actually done in 2.5D, which is a rare thing that has never been seen before or since with Mario games. This hybridization allowed for different types of gameplay than had previously been found in any Mario games, and it introduced a lot of new mechanics that most players hadn't been familiar with. Throughout the game, players are driven by the need to find the 7 stars. This leads to a large amount of conflict with many varying enemies throughout the game. The plot helps spur the player's curiosity and drive them forward. This conflict between Mario and those that would like to claim the star pieces for themselves help keeps things interesting as Mario goes through many new, unique experiences. The real reason this works well for the game is simply the writing. The writing is goofy and entertaining, to say the very least. It is important to notice, if you haven't already, that there are basically 3 modes of interactivity with this game. The first of which would be simple narration. With simple narration, the player has no control over what's going on in the game and is instead given solely part of the plot. The second form of interaction is traditional platforming, yet much simpler than Mario games of the past. Other times, on the other hand, some of the environment navigation can be incredibly challenging due to it being an intentional puzzle. The third type of interaction is combat. Combat happens in the traditional turn-based RPG format, where the player and the AI take turns back and forth attacking one another. Let's go a little bit more into the mechanics with combat. With combat, you basically have 4 buttons the player can use. Attack, defense, items, and finally special attacks. Special attacks consume flower points, which is a shared resource between all of the player's characters. Flower points, along with items and character health, serve as the consumable resources the player has to work with. Attack and defense, on the other hand, consume no resources and can be used each turn without any cost associated with them. To justify the extra cost associated with special attacks, they typically do things much greater than you otherwise could do. Some of them heal the player's characters, while others do increasingly large amounts of damage to the enemies, or attack multiple enemies. Items, on the other hand, typically help replenish a resource such as flower points or a character's health, though some items can do much more extreme things such as bring a character back to life or make them immune to all attacks for a set number of turns. Another essential mechanic which is first introduced with this game is timing. Every time a player does an attack, special attack, or is attacked, they have a chance to press a button in time with the animation to either heighten a positive effect or dampen a negative one. If a player cannot do this correctly, the majority of the time they will have it rough trying to get through this game. This small mechanic helps break up the sometimes repetitious experience of the turn-based RPG with a unique and fun challenge. In typical Mario fashion, there is progression through many different worlds within the game. Outside of combat, the player can typically walk in 8 directions as well as jump. This is uniquely used as a challenge throughout the game, forcing players to navigate many different areas in a sometimes puzzling and other times challenging fashion. To help keep things fresh, the game includes a wide variety of minigames within it. Some are one-time only puzzles, while others are events a player can go back to for rewards based on performance. Here you can see an example of one that the player has a chance to return to. It's a simple minecart minigame in which the player tries to navigate the course as fast as possible without losing themselves off the tracks. The plot of this game takes many twists and turns before a final goal ever becomes apparent. It starts with Mario attempting to save Princess Toadstool from Bowser. Just as Mario is about to succeed, a huge sword falls from the sky and sends all three of them in completely different directions. Mario then spends about half the game looking for the princess. Along the way, Mario picks up allies, including Bowser himself, surprisingly. Eventually the princess is found, and she as well becomes a companion, as Mario and crew set out on an even bigger task. In the process of trying to find the princess, Mario has found out from his companion Gino that some villain named Smithy has broken the Star Road into pieces. These would be the 7 star pieces in the title of the game. Until these pieces are all reclaimed, no wishes will come true in Mario's world. Mario has already collected a few of these pieces along the way, and now sets out to collect those that remain. The rest of the game plays out as a struggle between Mario and his group as they try to get the star pieces before Smithy does. A great example of why this is such a good game can be seen in the time spent from acquiring the 5th star up until the time the 6th star is acquired. In this time period, the player experiences 3 distinctly different areas: Land's Edge, Nimbus Land, and the volcano. Between these places, Mario encounters over half a dozen bosses, and the story of Mallow unfolds as he meets his parents for the first time and learns that he is the Prince of Nimbus Land. While the bosses and enemies vary, they all greatly represent what is fun with this game. These bosses all require the player to have a good handle on combat mechanics as well as team dynamics. Again, just like the game as a whole, you never know what you might run into in this time period. Mario ends up running into a giant egg-spitting dinosaur, gets eaten by Bellum, the always hungry 4-eyed monster, and even battles it out with the Axum Rangers, who are a comedic reference to the Power Rangers that were popular with children when the game originally released. This game is just barely old enough that its release predates most of the awards that exist today for video games. Overall, its reception has been good. It is rare that anyone has negative things to say about the game, and you'll typically find it on most top 25 game lists. Though it does not have a successor due to legal constraints, the game does have spiritual successors in the Paper Mario and Mario & Luigi series. These games continue with the RPG nature, along with timing and combat, and the flower points, all wrapped up by a plot to find 7 stars. It is too bad a true successor has still never been realized. The original's appearance on the Virtual Console signifies that it is still popular to some extent to this day. Maybe in the future Square Enix and Nintendo will team up again, though it is highly unlikely.